Hi, welcome back. Today we're going to have a chat about legality of everyday carry knives in the UK. So, what is legal to have in your pocket and what isn't legal to have in your pocket? So, I've got some examples here. And we'll use those examples to discuss legality. So, let's get started. So, in the UK, the United Kingdom, that's Scotland, England, Wales, and Northern Ireland, we don't have shared legal systems. England and Wales do, but primarily they're all independent. However, there is the UK legal system which governs all four countries, and knife law is covered under that UK law. So that's one of those, all four countries covered by the same one. So, everyday carry, what does it mean? It's something that you have on your person all the time, every day, a useful item to have. So it could be your mobile phone, could be your watch, could be your pen. I usually have a pen on me. And for a lot of people, everyday carry means a pocket knife or something like that, some kind of useful tool. So, a bladed implement in the UK is not legal to carry if it's longer than 3 inches and or has a locking or fixed blade. So, locking blades are considered to be fixed blades under UK law because they can't be immediately closed in one motion without resistance. And it's illegal to carry a fixed blade or a locking knife or a knife longer than 3 inches on your person without good reason. Now that's the key point here. The UK knife law is written in such a way as to be intentionally vague. And why have they done that? Well, it's quite clever actually. They've done it so that they can rule on individual breaches of that law on a case-by-case basis. If you make it all very clearly defined in blanket, then there's no room for, okay, does this person need a bit of leeway or does this person need a bit more severity? So what's happened is they've come up with this idea, the lawmakers, of let's make the law intentionally vague, and that way it has a bit of room for negotiation, a bit of room for, not negotiation, but a bit of room for definition. So basically, the simplest way to sum it up is don't be a dick with your knife and the cops will leave you alone. So if you're walking down the street with a Rambo knife, you're going to prison. And to be honest, you deserve to go to prison. That's a stupid thing to do. But if you've got a Leatherman wave on your hip and you're not bothering anyone, now a Leatherman wave has a less than 3 inch blade, it's about 2.5 inches, but it does lock. But you're not bothering anyone. And the cops stop you and they say, excuse me, sir, why have you got this locking implement on you? So long as you can provide them with a reasonable cause for possession. You know, I was just doing some work at home, I forgot it was still on my hip. I'm on my way to my job, I'm a builder, something like that. This is a tool that I use every day for work, then that's okay. Now, in strictly legal terms, if you're something like a builder or a chef and you work with knives every day, I'm a builder myself, you're supposed to carry them wrapped and packaged away, not about your person. But the reason for the leeway in the law is in case of mistakes, because everyone's human. But it really depends on how you're behaving, where you are, and what cop you come up against. So there was a case in London on the London Underground on the subway a couple of years ago where a builder had a Stanley knife on his hip pocket and forgot it was there on his way home from work. And he was arrested, charged, and convicted of possession of a weapon. Because a Stanley knife is not a folding blade, it doesn't just close automatically. The fact that it is on a detent means that it counts as a locking or fixed blade. Now, he had a perfectly reasonable excuse for carrying it, but the place that he had it and the police officer and the culture of police officers there that he came up against doesn't tolerate that. So London has knife crime problems. And he was on a subway. These are not good places. You know, you wouldn't go to a football stadium with a Leatherman wave on your hip, would you? That would be stupid. You wouldn't go to a concert or a restaurant. But The knives that you are allowed to carry are 3 inches or less, up to 3 inches maximum, but that includes the full length of the blade, not just the cutting edge. It used to be just the cutting edge, but they've recently updated the law, so stay on the right side of it. And non-locking, so it needs to be either a slip joint or a detent or a pivot, friction folder, something like that. So that's about 2.5 inches. There's a slip joint mechanism, non-locking. So it opens and it closes. Now, one-handed is fine as well. You can have a one-handed opening. You can't in Germany, that's against the rules, but you can have a locking one in Germany. So let's say your knife is a little Spyderco clipped tool, one-handed opening. That's absolutely fine, because this is a non-locking slip joint knife. It doesn't matter that it's one-handed, one-handed's fine. But if the one-handed opening is this Benchmade with the axis lock, even though it's a little blade, that's a no-no, unless you have good reason. Now that's the defining point. So let's look at some strange examples of outliers here. So it's Ford Mini Peasant, huge, legal. The actual total blade length is under 3 inches, believe it or not, despite the tang and despite the overall size of the body. That's legal. This little tiny thing here, not legal. This is a 2-inch fixed blade. Broken now. Tiny little fixed blade, 2-inch novelty essentially. Not legal for everyday carry. So let's look at some multi-tools. So I mentioned recently my Victorinox Swiss tool, and I also mentioned my Leatherman Wingman. Now ordinarily the Leatherman Wingman would not be UK legal, because although the blade is only 2.5 inches long, it locks. But I have adjusted mine. I've installed this washer here, which holds open the liner lock permanently. So I can carry mine, you know, in my pocket or on my hip or what have you. And I'm not breaking the rules. Unless, even if it's non-locking, I start freaking people out with it. So if I open this semi-serrated pointed blade in the supermarket to cut up an apple, I'm going to look like a nutcase and the cops are going to get phoned. So even if it's non-locking, you need to be sensible. Don't bring everyone else down by doing stupid things and then standing having an argument with the cops saying, but it's under 3 inches and it doesn't lock. If you're acting like a dick, it doesn't matter what size the knife is. Don't be a dick, be sensible. So, Spyderco clip tool again, one-handed, perfectly legal. One-handed's fine, that's not against the law. But this, my absolute favourite multi-tool, and in my opinion the best quality one on the market, bar none. Victorinox Swiss tool, not legal for everyday carry. Has the normal Victorinox blade, but that doesn't qualify because of this lock here that holds it open. So if I'm carrying this, it needs to be at work. That way I have just cause, good reason, a reasonable excuse to have it on me. My work involves using tools, involves needing a locking bladed knife, involves needing a folding pair of pliers with a built-in screwdriver, etc, etc. So I have a reasonable excuse, but even then, you might still have to argue the toss in court. This is where the grey area of the law, the poorly defined law comes in. So they've done it on purpose so that the law always falls in the law's favour for them to decide whether to prosecute or not. So, this little guy here, let's look at this. This is the toe knife that I reviewed recently. Small, 2-inch-ish, let's just confirm that. Yeah, 2-inch long blade. Measured on here. 2-inch long blade, but it's not legal. Doesn't matter if it's under 3 inches, it's a fixed blade. And fixed blades are not legal. You can have them in your tool bag or your bushcraft bag, your camping bag, your hiking bag, and you can use them in the countryside for things like that. But you can only use them when you get there. So if you're going to take a fixed blade camping, then you can't just wear it on your hip all the time. You keep it in your backpack and you use it when you get to your campsite, and then you put it back again. You can have it on your hip around the camp, but when you then go to leave the camp or the trail or whatever, don't just have it on your person. Now, a lot of people, and I see this a lot on YouTube comment sections, think that the UK knife laws are super, super strict. I would advise that the people that think that, go and have a look at Norway's knife laws, or the new Dutch knife laws and German knife laws, French and Spanish knife laws. If you think that the UK knife laws are strict, and I don't think they're particularly strict, to be honest, it doesn't bother me in the slightest. I'm perfectly happy carrying a sub 3-inch non-locking knife. That's what I would have carried even if it wasn't the law. But if you think our laws are strict, go and look at the EU laws in the Netherlands, Spain, Germany, France, or the Nordic countries. Look at Norway's knife laws. You think, oh, well, they do a lot of outdoorsy pursuits, they must have very liberal knife laws. Very much not. Not at all. Much stricter than ours, all those knife laws. And then you get to a situation where somewhere like Poland, that has no knife regulation whatsoever, you can walk down the street with a samurai sword on your belt to the supermarket and think to yourself, is that what you really want? I certainly don't. It wouldn't make me feel particularly comfortable. People are walking around with a billhook or a machete or a golok just because they could. Just because it's legal doesn't mean it's going to make the world a better place, does it? You know, so you've got almost no regulation of knives in Poland. You've got strict regulation of knives in places like Norway and Spain and the Netherlands. And then you've got the UK, which is not as strict as those ones and not as lax as those ones. So I actually think our knife laws are pretty okay. There's a few wee bits you could make argument with, which I don't like, the lack of definition of the zombie knife thing. But again, people shouldn't be running about with that type of knife anyway. Don't be running down the street with a bright green Rambo knife. Don't be an idiot. So, Swiss Army knives. You've all seen them, you all know what they are. Even this one with the Spyderco one-handed blade, perfectly reasonable, perfectly legal. And frankly, the more socially acceptable. So part of the thing about knives is, regardless of whether they are EDC compliant or not, even if they are EDC compliant, they might still freak someone out, and that's against the law. That's a breach of the peace. That's causing fear and alarm. Those are the legal terms. So if you have a Swiss Army knife in your pocket and you pull it out in the post office to trim a bit of string on a package that you're sending, people are probably going to be less freaked out than they would be if you pulled out an equally legal but massive Ford Mini Peasant. You know, so using a bit of sense is always important. People recognise simple red basic Swiss Army knife and they don't feel threatened by it. But this thing's huge, even though it's legal. Now, if you look at the blade sizes, they're actually the same. But it's just so oversized that's going to make people feel uncomfortable. And you're going to need to stand there and have an argument with a police officer to say, no, it's non-walking and under 3 inches. But that doesn't matter if you cause fear and alarm. Someone sees this, they're not going to be freaked out because people are used to seeing Swiss Army knives. Swiss Army knives are ubiquitous. They are non-threatening, non-locking and sub 3 inches. So part of the idea of EDC legal is not just about size and locking. It's also about sensibility. So we all know the Benchmade bug out. You're not going to have this on you all the time because it locks. And yeah, it looks cool and yet it deploys fast, but people are going to be frightened of it. So, Weatherman Bond, designed for the UK market, based on the old PST and Super Tool designs, non-locking. sub 3 inch, great blade, 2-hand accessible and inside the handle scales. These are all the things you want to stay on the right side of the law. You don't want to be up in court faced with a charge of I didn't realise, because ignorance of the law, legal, not legal for everybody to carry. Ignorance of the law is not defence in law. You can't simply go to court and say, well, I didn't know. That doesn't mean you get away with it. Okay, so stay on the right side of the law and be sensible, and remember that your actions have an effect on the whole community. So if you're going to run about like a dick and do something really stupid, even with a legal knife, you're going to make us all look bad, and then the laws are going to get tighter, and then everything's going to get worse. So even if you've got a knife on you that's not strictly UK legal, but you've got a reasonable excuse and you're being sensible, better for us all. Take care and stay legal and stay safe.